What's up, everybody? It's your boy Hugh here from Creator Up. As you see right here, I line up 3 most popular 360 video camera right now in the market, and I want to do an in-depth review of the photo still quality of among these 3 cameras. Because my viewer asked me on my YouTube channel, say, hey, which one is the best camera taking still 360 photos? Not video, but just photos. And they always mention about this camera, which is the Xiaomi, which is one of the most popular 360 video camera now in the market, and take great picture. And then the one I have, the EVR, and also the Insta360 ones. So in here, I want to do an in-depth, very in-depth review of the photo quality of all 3 cameras, so you know which one is best for your particular need. So I will actually go into detail, divided by 5 sections. First, we talk about resolution among this camera. The second, we talk about stitching. To me, stitching is a big concern of all 360 video camera, especially for camera like this with only 2 lenses. So we talk about stitching from different perspectives. Because all these 3 cameras use optical flow stitching, so meaning the stitching is way better than the camera come from Nikon, Keyvision, or Samsung gear. Those are out of the question because cannot even compare with these 3 cameras. But which one do the best optical flow stitching? And which one do the best in-camera stitching? Or which one allow me to stitching in post-production using like auto panel Giga, Mystica V Auto Stitch? And what is the problem when you one lens facing to the sun and the other lens facing in the shadow? How you compensate if the color different? Like all these problems will gonna be show up onto your photos, and how you fix it, adjust that, and which camera actually doing a good job on that. I will go into detail on that. And the next one, we're going to talk about some advanced features that only available on the E camera. This camera actually has like 3 really very interesting mode, which including like just auto mode, and then stage mode, and night mode. The stage mode, let's say that if you're in a concert and you're facing on the stage, which is well lit, when the audience is then dark, how you shoot video and photo like that. And this camera has this mode to allow you to do that. And the night mode is one of the actually most anticipated mode for this camera, is a noise reduction mode. So this camera also comes with meter mode, allow you to shoot like center, spot, and average meter, which is a really professional function. We'll talk about that as well in the camera. And then we go into nighttime photography. So how the quality compare between all 3 cameras in the nighttime, night shooting mode in a low light situation. And then the last thing I want to talk about is actually long exposure photography at night. Meaning that you will bring your camera into like area that have less light pollution, and then you have a long exposure to try to shoot the sky, so you can see the star, the galaxy, the moon. So all of 3 cameras allow long exposure. These 2 allow 30-second long exposure, and this one actually allows 60-second long exposure. So how's the quality difference between all 3 cameras in a nighttime situation? So we will go over all of this in detail, great detail. So if you're ready, let's get started. So in section 1, we talk about resolution. Here is all the image we pull from. The first one is, if you look at the info, this is from the Insta360 one. Why I have 2 versions is, one is actually JPEG, and the Insta360 one is very special camera, can actually take Adobe DMG format. So that's why I put it side by side here, because you can actually only see the camera information in the Adobe DNG formats file. And so here is the auto mode, and this one is with the ISO set with ISO priority mode. The next one is the Xiaomi camera. The first one here is the set ISO, that is the manual mode, and this one is auto mode, and this one is the E. This one is using actually E stage mode. So what stage mode is actually try to like explode the dark area and blind area differently. So just to not let the highlight guard to explode. So using that mode actually basically set your ISO to 100, and then it's the ISO priority mode. So as you see here, the sun is not blowing out, and my face is exposed my face in the sun. That is the E special mode, but it's basically just just like the manual mode. And here is the E auto mode. As you see, the ISO still hundreds, but everything is pretty even out. with the sun's kind of blow out right here compared to this one. Just look at the sizes of this image. Insta360 One and the Xiaomi camera is both in a higher resolution. They call it 7K. It's 6912 times 3456. They're both in the same sizes. But does that mean higher resolution mean better image? That is not really the case. If you pay attention on the file size for the Insta360 One, this is a high resolution image, but only retain 5.7 megabyte information. If you look at this one, it's even smaller. It's 5.8 megabyte. But look at Xiaomi. Xiaomi's camera, this one is 13.9 megabyte, and for this one is 12.6 megabyte. So even just in the same resolution, the Xiaomi camera actually retains more information and less compression because the file size is bigger. Let's take a look at the E. E is a smaller resolution image, so it's 5.7K. But look at the file size, it's 9 megabyte for this one and 9.2 megabyte for this one. So it's even bigger than the Insta360 One, you see right here. So even for a smaller 5.7K, but the file size is slightly bigger than the bigger version of the Insta360 One, meaning there's more information captured in the image by the camera. So I would not actually just look at resolution. I would actually pay attention to the information retained from the camera. Again, E is supported using a higher, better sensor and better lenses, so it capture more information. I upload the same images in Cooler, so we can actually see the 360 mode. So let's click on the one. Okay, so here is the Insta360 One in auto mode. As you see, if you zoom all the way in, you can see my face is a little bit not so clear. You see the dark area is a little bit like lost. Again, the highlight is completely lost right here. If you pay attention on this section, this is actually really interesting because this is a really complicated chair and the white wall. You can see artifact in the image compared to the Xiaomi. As you see, the Xiaomi color is really vibrant. As you see, the green is greener than the one. As you see, the color is really vibrant. If you zoom wide in onto my face, so my face has less artifact of the image. If you pan and see again here in the chair and the wall, you will not see a lot of like compression artifacts on the Xiaomi camera. And in general, the image quality is better, even uploaded in Cooler. For the E camera, you see the sharpening is better than the two camera. It does not have that soft look. It's actually a really sharp look. The color dynamic range is actually really good as well. You zoom into my face. Also, the less compression artifact you can see in my face compared to that one. You pan around here. At the same time, you see the chair and the white wall is less compression artifact. But you can see that the quality is, I think, in my opinion, is slightly not as good as the Xiaomi. So just in round one of resolution, obviously, the resolution is higher in the Xiaomi and the One, and it's lower, only 5.7K in the Yi. But I think the image quality doesn't determine by just the resolution, because in the E camera, even if a smaller resolution, it also have retain more information compared to the One. If you compare to the E and the Xiaomi, just at the resolution and the compression artifacts and the file size and the information retained, I think that the Xiaomi is actually still slightly better. Again, it's a higher resolution, also have a less compression artifact, and it just, the color look like more vibrant compared to the color you look at the E camera. But again, that is just processing from the camera. The color information you can always tweak and post, because for smaller file size like E, but within more information, meaning that you can do more in color correction in post-production. So the second thing we're gonna talk about is stitching. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna spend most amount of time talk about stitching because I think stitching is very important on any 360 video camera, photo camera. So let's look at first. Again, I took a lot of picture test photo right here, so I organized them. So let's look at one. On this picture, I put it into GoPro VR player. Let's make it full screen so you can easily see it. It's me like doing some weird motion shot as almost sunset. The sun is setting right now, and side by side with the E camera right here, and also this one is the Xiaomi camera. So look at the stitching. The stitch line, if you go up, look at here, the chimney, you see a double mirror image of the chimney. That is optical flow stitching issue. It's a very common issue. If you see a vertical object in optical flow, if the camera doesn't know what is going on, they will have this ghost image. We call it ghosting. And you see that that ghosting is very obvious because I believe the sensor between the camera, the lens between the camera on the Insta1 is pretty far compared to the 2 camera. So you see a really obvious ghosting here, or parallax issue right here. Okay, let's look at the Xiaomi. So same image, and then you look at right here. If you zoom right in, you see the Xiaomi actually have the best stitching in camera stitching. You would not see the ghosting here at all. You probably still see some like double mirror parallel issue right here, like the window, but it's so small that almost unnoticeable if the object is in a far distance. And now let's take a look at the E. In the E, the in-camera stitching, you still see a double mirror image. It is in the same vertical line. But you see that the chimney is separated and you see the same issue. Like that one, it's not as obvious as one, but it still have the ghosting compared to the Xiaomi. Just to show you, like, compare with the one, if you see the one, the chimney is pretty far apart. Look at that, there's a gap in between. But if you see the E, since the sensor is closer, so the in-camera stitching, there's no gap in between, but still you see 2 chimneys. So there is a problem. So first, in conclusion, if using in-camera stitching, Xiaomi is the best in camera stitching because the camera, the lens is so close apart, the sensor is so close together, not apart, together. So have the best in camera stitching. So if you go back to the section 1, the resolution, look at all this image, you can see the very obvious stitch line right here because in all 3 scenarios, one lens is facing the sun and the other lens facing to the dark, which is facing to me. So this is the E again. You see this like really obvious light box right here. You can tell this is shot in one camera, that is shot in the other camera. Same as the Xiaomi. Xiaomi is very obvious. And then the one is actually not so obvious, especially in the DNG mode. You can barely see the stitch line, which is a great thing. You can see on this one, that is just the JPEG. It's a DNG mode. So that is another big issue when I pick a 360 video camera, photo camera, is the color difference between 2 lenses. If you know about Mijia VR, you know about like multi-cam stitching software and rig like Insta360 Pro or GoPro Omnia. Both AVP, Auto Video Panel Pro, and Mijia VR have a way to balance the exposure and color in between lenses and to get rid of this stitch line, to sell the image is actually one vehicle image. So in order to do that, you have to not do in-camera stitching. This is the E in-camera stitching. You see this stitch line? And let's look at if you stitch it with the E Studio software come with your PC. And here is the end result. Let me show you. So that is in the auto mode, and you will not be able to see stitch line anymore. So the whole exposure and color evenly spread out in the entire image. And here is the stage mode, which is manual exposure, same situation. You will not be able to see the stitch line anymore. Let's put it into GoPro. So that is the E in camera stitching. Take a look at here. If you spin up, you see a very obvious stitch line right here on the top. right here. See that line? That is very ugly. But if you stitch it, the same image in post, like you grab it, you basically turn off the in-camera stitching, so you actually get the two lens profile, and you stitch it with the software, and that is the final image. Take a look. Spin up. You will not be able to see. I mean, you still see a little bit, but I mean, you can barely tell. There's a stitch line right here. Color is evenly spread out through two lenses, especially when you spin down right here. You will not be able to see any stitching problem, any different exposure and color difference between two lenses. So that is a one big step up for E. One great feature I really like about this camera, that is not possible on any camera until this day. I mean, any two lens camera until this day. So big thumb up on E on this one. Let's take a look at the actual stitching. Let's look at this example. So this is just me stand about like 1 meter or 1.5 meter away from the camera. And you see that in camera stitching, I am kind of squat in the middle. That is actually using optical flow stitching. I just become weird. So basically, if you just rely on in camera stitching, never ask your subject stand in between the stitch line. They would just look weird like this one. And this is kind of close up. Let's look at the further one. For the further one, it's slightly better when you're like further away from the camera, but you still see a little bit like halo around my face, and I still look super skinny, and in reality, I'm not that skinny. So if you want to just look skinny, maybe it's a good trick to stand in the stitch line far away from the camera. The camera will make you look skinnier. I mean, if that is what you want, right? But that is not a true reflection of your body type. Let's take a look at if you're using the eStudio stitch. So as you see, this is the closer one. Now you see that there is no stitching problem in this image. I am perfectly fine in the stitch line around 1 meter same distance away from the camera, and that is using the eStudio stitching in the post-production. And then let's take a look at the further one. Same scenario, you see now I'm fatter, like I'm not so skinny anymore, and that is actually the correct me sizes. I was not stitched out by the camera. Before E, I can never get a perfect stitch if the subject line stand right in between the stitch line for any two lens camera. And E is the first ever camera allow me to do that. That is very exciting for me, at least as a 360 photographer. So now you see the E, but let's take a look at Xiaomi N1. How does that perform in the stitch line situation? So this one is the Xiaomi closer one. Let's take a look. So this is the closer version of the Xiaomi. I'm around 1 meter away from the camera. And as you see, even my body look correct, my face got squat, and I look like I have a pig nose, which is very weird, and I don't like it. And also you see I got two buckle right here instead of like one buckle. My shirt basically changed. So basically the optical flow stitch like cut me right in the middle, make me look super weird. And let's take a look at the further version. When I stand around like 2 meters away from the camera, well, it looked better. I still see a little halo around my hair, but the biggest issue, as you see, is the left and right lens, because my right face there to the sun, my left face is in the shadow, and because the color difference made me look like I got cut in the middle. So even the stitch is good, but the color blend is not good. So the Xiaomi have pretty good in-camera stitching, but it's not perfect. If you want perfect, the Xiaomi actually not allow you to bring the image and stitching in Mythical VR or some other third-party in-camera stitching software, which is a huge issue. You would not be able to achieve perfect stitch if your subject is right on the stitch line and is also very close to the camera. So that is an issue. For the one, let's look at the one. The one I actually stitched it in the Insta360 Studio, so I actually stitched it in post. This right now is the only way to stitch this camera footage, because whenever you grab the footage from the camera, it gives you the DNG file and the INSP file. Only with open INSP file is actually through the Insta360 Studio, so you have to use it to stitch. So whatever that software gives you is the best thing you can get for now, at least. So let's see how good is the stitch. So as you see, this is close-up. Close-up is actually not bad. I've almost achieved the same stitching quality as the eStudio, which is I'm happy about. But let's look at the further version. And now you see ghosting right here. So I think that's very strange for the Insta360 one. If the subject is close to the camera, actually stitching is better. But if this is far away from the camera, like the chimney we saw like right here, the chimney, and me in this scenario stand far away from the camera, is about like 3 meters away from the camera, I actually have stitching issue by the software or by the camera. So you just look at a lot of picture and a lot of example. If just talking about in camera stitching, the Xiaomi is the best. So if your workflow is basically bring out the camera, take a picture, upload it on the phone, and then upload directly into Snapseed, do your like photo processing and upload on Instagram or other 360 photo software like Facebook, the E definitely give the best result on stitching. But if you want to have a perfect stitch and fully control of your stitch line, the 1 and the E is better. For the E is the best. No matter how close, how far away the subject away from the camera, with the E software, you can always achieve perfect stitch. In part 2 of this tutorial, we will further explain how to use third-party stitching software like Mystical VR and Auto Video Giga to further adjust the stitch line. And then we'll talk about low light performance between the Insta360 one, the Xiaomi Mijia, and the VR360 video camera. And then we will take one step further to look at long exposure nighttime photography to capture the night sky of star, moon, and galaxy. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and if you like this video, please give me a thumb up, and I will see you in the next episode.